Hello every pony, I'm back with Crisis Equestria Chapter 5. Literally finished the last chapter like 10 minutes ago. I've got my drink ready, I'm prepared. Hopefully, last time my mouth was getting so dry I was coughing, it was horrible. So, yes, hopefully this time. Things should go a little bit better. Wow, I haven't even started reading the fanfiction and my words are buggering up. This is going to be fantastic, isn't it? Right, let's just get on with this. Crisis Equestria, Chapter 5, Intermission. The dim glow of the massive dining room was barely enough to let any pony inside see, much else besides the unnecessarily long table that would typically have the room to seat several dozens. But this morning, most mornings, and most afternoons and nights for that matter, this table and this dining room were being put to use by only one. Silvertongue was seated in an attentive yet relaxed position at the end of the table. On the other counter before him sat several plates of food. Some remained full, and few were only half touched, and a couple here and there were empty. Some of the provisions he did not care for, and many of them were found revolting. But such was the case when he could not partake in utopian cuisine. Dollar foods were not known for their flavour or texture, their nutrition, their substance, or their appealing appearance. So he elected not to partake in those at all, when it could be avoided. He was much more interested in more exotic foods that were utterly beyond his hunger satiating, and flavourful, and by all means different. Foods up here in the north were just better, because they were so difficult to come by. But Silvertongue was of the opinion that if some pony wasn't willing to risk their lives, or the lives of those beneath them, to attain what they desired, they weren't worthy of participating in the game of life at all. Magma berries were his favourite, and as such made up the majority of his diet. Named for their nature of their juicy interiors and their rich colour, a deep burnt red with bright orange and yellow splotches, of which no berries ever had the same pattern. These rare and delicious berries are packed full with enough nutrition and flavour that were one able to afford the cost. It was possible and commendable to live entirely on them and them alone. Extremely spicy with a savoury sweet aftertaste, all rolled into one delectable little bite-sized fruit oozed with juices and stung with burning flavour. Silvertongue likened them to eating candy coated flame. They went well on their own as snacks, and for this they were mostly exquisite when frozen or deep fried. This was not for the faint of heart or stomach. They worked well as toppings or stuffing for pancakes or waffles, and even baked goods, when the sugary sweetness helped to overpower the heat. They even made good for syrups and sauces and dips, especially when roasted and blended. But his favourite purpose for them so far, above and beyond the others, as to compare diamonds to coal. I don't understand that sentence, but whatever. They were used for the best wines in the entire world, extremely strong, enough to knock a wild gargantuan matriarch on her back with a single glass. But this rare drink came only through an excruciating process that was substantially more dangerous than just picking the berries themselves. The Red Blade Mountains, a range of everlastingly active volcanoes just west of the gate, were the only home of these berries. which required extreme heat to grow and even more extreme temperatures to flourish. The best crops grew right at the edge of the dried lava. The best crops grew right at the edge of the dried lava pools and at the volcanic craters. And to make it into wine, they needed to be pulped immediately after plucking. While their juices were still hot and bubbling like the magma from which they took their name, requiring the pony making it to remain in a fiery ash-coated wasteland for hours on end, risking life and limb against the blazing heat, the lung-clogging black soot, or worse, a sudden eruption that would sear their flesh and turn their bone to as much as charcoal were they in the wrong place at the wrong time. The fermenting process needed to begin within an hour afterwards, thus necessitating quick travel in a wildly dangerous landscape. But a properly made bottle of the finest magma berry wine was like sipping emotion itself, as if it had been fermented with ecstasy and pleasure and agony and sorrow and all the best and worst feelings and sensations one pony could ever hope to experience in one lifetime, let alone 2 more. All of it flavoured as if to match the tastes of the pony drinking it. If you were sad, the wine could send you into a deep depression. Were you happy, it could fill you with an ecstatic elation. It was a dangerous drink for those who were unstable. Heaven and hell together in glass. Silvertongue enjoyed the breakfast one little piece at a time, lazily though thoroughly scanning the morning's data report, when he felt another presence in the room with him. "Ah, Shadowstep," he smiled, as he shuffled away from his electronic readout. "You have returned from your errands. Though with a bit of delay, I notice. I expected your arrival hours ago, when you wouldn't be interrupting my breakfast. I do hope you have some good news for me." Apologies, my lord." Shadowstep nervously bowed from the darkness. "Getting the information you required took longer than I planned. But, oh my lord, you will not believe the things I have learned about our 6 little targets." Shadowstep briskly approached the table and looked at a tiny little device from his ear, and inserted it into a socket on the table's electronic display. As he did so, Silvertongue noticed that Shadowstep looked like he had been in quite a scuffle. His uniform had several burn marks and tears, and the young stallion's face and wings had been nicked and bruised in several places. Multiple notices and alerts flickered and faded across the screen. "Apologies, my lord, it seems I haven't updated my software just yet." And with a touch of a hoof, Shadowstep's report opened up. A wide black document with neon green text and highly detailed full-colour images. Silvertongue gazed upon it and began to read along, noting that each section was divided neatly and everything tidily organised. The city may not have much concern for order in their paperwork, but Silvertongue was without desire to see reports presented directly to him undergo that same treatment. It was a rather strange irony. Ah, bollocks. Hang on. The scrolling on my laptop's crap. Sorry for swearing, but annoyed. I see you spared no expense gathering intel on their personalities, Silvertongue nodded. That may be advantageous enough in the future. A commendable effort. Each of the 6 ponies from the early report had their own tidy section in a wide multitude of notes. Twilight Sparkles and Applejacks were noticeably shorter, though not so much so that it was a negative. There were more information here than Silvertongue had initially asked for. Shadowstep had done his job exceedingly well. He could be forgiven for being a little tardy. Shadow's step swelled with confidence and pride. I interviewed the NPPD officer that was on the forms, he smirked. Disguised myself as a CIA agent. She didn't suspect a thing. And answered every question, and went into rather excruciating detail about them all. I couldn't get their documentation forms, but got enough info from her directly to lead me to them. I certainly hope you were more thorough than that, my boy. Silvertongue narrowed his eyes without removing them from the screen. He knew very well that if the CIA caught wind of this, the committee would stymie his efforts just by merely being anywhere within 100 miles of the situation. The damned fools would draw too much attention, alert too many ponies, and probably actively involve themselves with the 6 mares. And to make it that much more difficult to continue with his efforts covertly. Of course, my lord. Took care of her real neat and tidy like. Waited until she was about to get off. He snickered at the double entendre, even if the meaning was lost to his employer. No pony will have seen her leaving the building, or not leave. No pony will have seen her leaving the building, or not leave, for that matter. Had to get creative with the cleanup, though, avoid suspicion and stuff like that. Didn't want to draw any undue attention from the CIA or NPPD. She didn't have family, and had only one friend on the force itself that might be a concern. But ever so conveniently, he's the 6 ponies. He's these 6's parole officer, so we can easily deal with him directly if need be. Very good, very good. And now, here is the information I was after. Silvertongue's eyes gleamed as he continued to the substance Shadowstep had obtained from the Chronomancer's discussion. He was most pleased in seeing for himself in text and image that his theory had not only been correct, but that it was turning out better than he had imagined. These weren't just any old average ponies. Intriguing. Such fascinating information. You obtained this from the Chronomancer, I can assume? He asked, knowing the answer already, but wanting a solid confirmation. It was never good to make decisions based on an assumption, as the old saying went. Well, it would make him look rather of the fool. Yes, my lord. She was talking with another Chronomancer, from what I could gather. From their home dimension. I didn't get much else out of it other than what they said. I don't really know what to make of it. It's not my forte. And he gave a half-hearted shrug. Silvertongue hummed lightly to himself as he read a little more of the report, somewhat curious about these elements of harmony. The 6 mares that wielded them, and how their world worked. It seemed familiar and similar enough to his own world's inner workings that he could grasp the concepts. But everything that was being said was a little off. No matter. They would have time to figure that out later if necessary. What was important was, and did you ensure that she would no longer be an obstacle, as I requested? Shadowstep hesitated for a mere second, not even long enough for a less observant pony to notice. But if it was enough for Silvertongue's notice, and the silver-coated unicorn shot him a glare that spoke many volumes of disappointment. The answer had not been immediate. That could not be any sort of good news, and he knew it. Shadowstep knew better than to lie to Silvertongue. The stallion always seemed to know when he was being deceived. No, sir, I could not confirm the kill. I dropped her from a few 100 feet above the city, but could not find the body. I'd like to believe she's dead, but, well, I know better than that. Just hang on a sec. Right, just a small drink. Okay. So, you're unsure if she still breathes, and is going to be an ever-persistent thorn in my side, or if she is dead, and we are being overly cautious. A waste of time and effort. Silversong sneered in a perfectly calm, almost tranquil rage. At the very least, you're not stupid enough to assume she's dead without the proof. You should not disappoint in that regard, though I am displeased that the Chronomancer is still has the possibility of being alive, especially since you will likely try to carry out this plan of hers much more abruptly. You forced her hoof too quickly, but that might work to be my advantage, sir. Normally, such a display of incompetence would earn my wrath. He glared with such intensity that Shadowstep rather wished he were on the other side of the planet, let alone the room. However, the rest of the information you have obtained has put me in rather high spirits. You went rather above and beyond my orders in that regard, and I believe I will find it most helpful. In the near future, I need to begin preparations for the next stage of the development. In the meantime, I will grant you a very rare opportunity, a second chance. Stop that Chronomancer, and do not let these mares leave the city. Do I make myself clear? Crystal, my lord. Shadowstep gulped. And one more thing, Shadowstep. I rarely grant second chances. I do not grant third ones. Understand? Yes, my lord. Leave me, Silvertongue. Dismissed. I require privacy. Contact me again when the situation has improved. Shadowstep nodded and backed away into the darkness of the room, where he vanished without a trace. Silvertongue sighed lightly to himself as he perused the report more thoroughly. There was something in all this information that he did not understand quite clearly. Rather, it struck him as awfully peculiar, and rather, well, there was no sense in dwelling on it. While he knew it would make no difference to his plans or whatever Nihila... Yeah, I said it right that time. Would desire, that was unimportant. For now, at any rate, what was important was alerting Nihila to the development of the devising a plan. He focused his mind and let his essence of waft out about him. An aura of magic that would serve as a beacon for his goddess, and draw her to him like a moth to flame. She would not take, "You summoned me, my warden." Her voice came cool and crisp into his brain and flooded his thoughts with a warm sensation. He shuddered at the way it burned her essence into him. A feeling of elation and curiosity. "Milady, I bear news regarding those creatures I discovered." And her spirit sparked with pleasure, sending a shiver down his spine. "Ah, you flatter me with your efficiency. I am eager to hear how they pertain to the situation." Silvertongue began to read off information from Shadowstep's report. Every time certain strings of words were used, different sensations flooded his soul as Nihila's essence fluctuated and flickered in reaction. The thought that another world would soon be in his death throes pleased her. Another world would soon be in its death throes pleased her. Filled her with joy and excited anticipation that made Silvertongue's entire being rise with pleasure. He was in ecstasy, and only maintained a calm, controlled demeanour because of years of posturing and proper etiquette. But the knowledge that these wielders of the elements of harmony, and that word in particular, harmony, filled Nihila with so much dread and hatred and loathing that it frightened even Silvertongue for a brief moment. Not for his own sake, but for hers, were responsible for the imbalance that was beginning to manifest in its world, as well as their own. It made Nihila rather displeased. But it also intrigued her, piqued her curiosity. Both she and Silvertongue knew the longer those six remained in this world, the more imbalance would tilt in harmonious favour. And while it would only be a minuscule proportion, it was the principle of the thing that counted. The Chronomancer had not picked up on the imbalance just yet. It was minuscule to them, but she could sense it. Nihila's initial thoughts were to simply have the six destroyed immediately and be done with it. But something in her warden's thoughts stirred her own. Something about the way he scrutinized their personalities, and looking for something hidden from plain sight. Perhaps there was more to the situation than its face value. My warden, tell me, she hissed into his heart. Were you in the Six Mares' place? What lengths would you go to return home? Me, milady? He raised an eyebrow. A most curious question to ask, since she had a full understanding of his mind and soul. A test, then. You know well by now that the lengths to which I would go to accomplish any goal I have set in my mind. I have always been ambitious. Were I in their place, nothing in this world or the next, or the in-between, could stop me. And I believe they would agree with you in that regard, she coolly hummed. The chronomancer plans to see Harmonia, does she? She thinks my counterpart will grant them passage and return them home. So it would seem. It was certainly within her power, within yours as well, Silvertongue nodded. I suspect that you do not wish to utilize that might for their benefit. Naturally, we can deal with a little imbalance for a time, and simply let their world be destroyed before we deal with them. I consider it an experiment. Let us see what the effects of a full-blown dark magics have upon a world with no way to stop the flow. The report says the chronomancer believed as much, hence why she seeks Harmonia instead. But we cannot just allow them to roam free. Then perhaps we can convince them that their new ally, the chronomancer, is misleading them. Convince them that perhaps Harmonia is not as benevolent as she seems. Silvertongue looked over the brief details in the report that he felt played a role here, and his eyes brightened when he made the connection. It was brilliant, and it made him all the more thankful for Shadowset's thorough investigation. This would not prove difficult, not at all. Well, at least conceptually. Turning them against Harmonia will not be an easy task, milady. She shares their qualities in a great many ways, and we both know full well that she will do what she can to help them once they meet her. Perhaps instead if we corrupted them. Corrupted, my warden. Her voice floated, curious and cold like icy water in his veins. An unorthodox plan. I cannot corrupt them quite the same as I have done in the past with others, he hissed, discontent with the inability to interfere directly. Her magic could not touch their minds as it could with her warden. Even if they had the physical or mental capacity to even comprehend her existence, their souls were too bright, her powers were too dark to touch their light. Well, at least they were in their current state. Silvertongue smirked, a smug grin that hinted at a darker intention. Ah, but milady, perhaps you won't need to corrupt them. At least not personally. Perhaps some pony else could accomplish such a task. You, perhaps? She laughed. I did not think you liked to dirty your hooves with menial labour any more. Always preferring to command from afar and manipulate your pawns. Hang on. Me? You misunderstand my intentions, milady, he grinned wider. I am not in the position to carry out such an errand anyway. I will have a simple understanding of their personalities. While I have a simple understanding of their personalities, there are a great many things I lack that would need to corrupt them adequately, to make them truly believe my words over those of a new ally, who is promising them a way home. I do not have an intimate knowledge of their psyches, their hearts' desires, their hopes and dreams, or the qualities of their souls. I do not know how deeply connected they are amongst themselves, nor do I know which particular buttons to push to elicit reactions. And further, I do not even know which of them exemplifies which element, apart from Twilight Sparkle, though I may be able to fathom a guess to a few. Another failing of the Chronomancer's ability, unless she is merely not speaking her mind. No, I do not believe I am qualified to corrupt them. You have a plan in mind already, my warden. Nihila cooed as she felt her way through his thoughts. His plan wafted through the dreaming, as she picked it apart and understood it as if it had been her own. She was elated to find her warden was such a resourceful thinker, but then again, he always had been. Ah, you are the most devious schemer. If we cannot corrupt them directly, perhaps we can do so indirectly. A brilliant idea. I thank you, my lady, for your praise. He smiled, feeling a tear come to his eye as the sensations of warm pride filled his heart. I shall begin my task right away. Should that accursed chronomancer truly still be alive, I will need to work quickly to complete the plan before she renders it difficult to accomplish covertly. If the chronomancer has perished, then we may merely need to adjust our plan slightly. This is a satisfactory foundation, regardless of the circumstances. Wouldn't you agree? I will leave you to your work, my warden. Call to me again when you are ready, and I will assist you with the final phase. Until then, I must monitor the belt of tranquility and continue my observations of the effect on their balance here. Aye, milady, I thank you for your blessings. And he felt Nihila's essence leave his mind and spirit, shaking off the feelings of emptiness, a sensation he would never grow accustomed to, no matter how many times or how many years he had experienced it. He clicked a button on the table, turning it on the intercom. Shroud? Yes, my lord? I need you to make a few calls. And if you call now, we'll send Absol Click asked off those lines. You scurvy Click Av news glorious. I'm pregnant Click. Ting cakes is easier than fun. Just take a click. Hey, I was watching that. Pinkie Pie frowned, flapped her for taking the remote control from her hoof, and gave her a stern look. We can watch your cooking programs later, Pinkie Pie. It's almost 7 o'clock and I need to watch the news. Ah, she pouted. Click. It's scrolling on my laptop. The jingle played over the background of the opening titles of the new news program, which display many sweeping vistas of New Pandemonium City. Gold text, bright and shiny, reflecting light that wasn't actually there, floated slowly from the upper corner of the screen and twisted through the center, to surround a circular silver emblem that zoomed in from the background, bearing a large glittering number 1. You are watching Channel 1 Eyewitness News in the morning, with daybreak. And the text was swept off the screen to reveal the moving image of a unicorn stallion with a golden coat and a short, bright blue mane, wearing a fancy brown business suit and a tie, and giving a broad, rehearsed grin to the audience. His name was highlighted in bright bronze letters in the lower corner of the screen, and Butterpickin in the studio. The image of a white pony mare replaced that of Daybreak. Her curly creamy blonde mane matching the colour of her own suit. No tie. She gave a broad grin to the audience as well. Featuring meteorologist Clarity with the weather. Now a dull brown Pegasus mare. Shiny black mane in a neat, slicked back style and a dusty blue jacket. Stalwart of sports, a burly sky blue earth pony with a short brown mane, whose coat and tie were clearly being stretched to their limit to fit his physique. He didn't really smile at the audience, so much as he gave them an assured, confident nod. And Skyline with traffic. A thin Pegasus stallion, sea green in colour, with a white-green mane styled back in a ponytail, wearing a decorated flight jacket and a pair of goggles. Hey, that pony's got style, Rainbow Dash chuckled. He might be as cool as me. This is Channel 1 Eyewitness News in the morning. Good morning, every pony, greeted Daybreak with a smile. Today's top stories. Hoof rot season already? new pandemonium medical reports arising reports of the serious disease early in this year, and are recommending action to be taken by every citizen to prevent the spread. And the major fire in the northeast section of the outer district from yesterday has still not been contained by Pandemonium Fire Brigade, and is beginning to spread further outwards in the district. Authorities are worried it may soon spread into Mid-East if efforts to stop it fail. First, though, here's your weekly weather forecast with Clarity. The camera panned over to a Pegasus mare, Clarity, who was standing in front of a large green screen, with that quickly flickered and hummed to reveal a map of the city with lots of coloured splotches splattered across it. It was the first time any of the 6 mares from Ponyville had seen what New Pandemonium City looked like as a whole. It came as a surprise to them just how big it was. The map was perfectly circular, almost ironically organised and divided into precise districts. In the centre was the Inner District, the smallest of the 3 major divisions, just beyond, covering roughly twice the area, were the Mid-Districts. They saw theirs, Mid-South, was covered in the least of the colours. Outside the Inner Districts, Flathoof pointed out when asked, that the Inner Districts employed teams of Pegasi to clear the smog, not unlike the weather teams they had back home. Central Plaza employed some as well, but not as many, and they weren't as good either. But they were better than nothing. The Outer District covered double the area of the Mid-Districts, and was divided into 2 sections, the Outer District itself, and a much smaller area in the southeast called the Gate District. Clarity lazily pointed out a bunch of splotches of colour, and she traced her hoof along the map. Along the map, the image slowly changed to reflect the movement of the colours, which, according to her, represented the major smog clouds. She didn't seem particularly fascinated with her job. Weather forecast for this week, she said in a bored, lazy tone. Smog today, smog tomorrow, more smog the day after that. Smog all week, folks, nothing new. Temperatures are staying steady in the mid-80s, though citizens in Mid-East may notice temperatures spike as the big fire starts moving towards them. I recommend turning on your air conditioning, as she yawned, then pointed to a big red cloud over the Midwest. Citizens of Midwest are advised not to go outside without protective gear for the next 3 days. Starting tonight, all signs point to a wild acid rainstorm. Weather teams from Mid-South and Inner Districts will attempt to divert it, but are not expecting to be able to do much except contain it. That's all for the weather, but we'll be back for a second look at the end of today's reports. Back to you, Daybreak, and she yawned again. Thanks, Clarity, Daybreak beamed. Now over to Skyline with the morning's traffic report. Skyline? And the camera switched from the studio to that of a Pegasus stallion. Skyline, who was holding it steady as he flew over a few smog layers above a particularly busy area of the city. Pegasus ponies everywhere were busy flying and dodging one another for seamlessly almost no reason at all. Rainbow Dash looked over to Pinkie Pie and shrugged, curious why no pony just flew in another direction. They all seemed to be constraining themselves to remain between 2 lines of bright green and floating light that winded through the taller buildings, and then between the many lines of shining white lines that passed between those. Pegasi on one side of a bright blue divider were flying north. The other side were flying south. The northbound side was where most of the troubles came in, as several of the bright blue-white lines were flashing red. Thanks, Daybreak. As you can see here, to all you Pegasi out there, it might be a good idea to steer clear of northbound air in intercity. Intercity 13. There was pretty heavy congestion this morning caused by a malfunction in 3 of the 4 guiding lanes. Traffic control estimates a 3 to 4 hour delay for repairs. I'd recommend taking ground Intercity 13 instead if you're headed for mid-north, and either air Intercity 12 or 14 if you're headed anywhere else. To all our Unicorn and Earth Pony pedestrians down there, please be on the lookout for wayward Pegasi taking illegal highway exits. MPPD units are already en route to try and direct the flow of traffic. Estimated arrival time is 1 hour. Now back to you in the studio. Thank you, Skyline. We'll be back to you for an update shortly. Daybreak nodded. Now to Butterpecan, I don't know. To Butterpecan with our top story of the day. Pecan? Butterpecan spoke in a cheerful, though focused tone as the camera shifted to her. Good morning, every pony. Today's top story. Hoofrot season is striking our fair city early this year, and there have already been numerous reports of it spreading quickly through some of the outer district areas. Doctors are recommending immunization measures have be taken as soon as possible. We have more from our correspondent at Central General. Hotwire? The camera shifted from the studio again to a young unicorn stallion standing in a pristine white hallway. He had a shiny purple coat and neatly combed orange mane with splotches of red in it. Wearing a dull red jacket and holding a microphone with his magic. To his left stood another unicorn with an off-white coat and an olive-green mane and tail that spiked out and stood at attention, as if they weren't really hair, but rather metal or wood or something solid. He must be a ton of product to get them to say go so straight. Rarity cooed. What an interesting style. One couldn't see his eyes. They were hidden behind large lab goggles. He wore a creamy brownish white lab coat and draped all around his form. Thank you, Butterpecan, Hotwire nodded. I am at Central General, where the reports of hoofrot being on the rise early this season were first discovered. With me is the committee-approved chief of medicine here at Central General, Dr. Blutsorger? That's a weird name. And the white unicorn nodded with a soft smile. Doctor, tell us more about what exactly you've discovered. Ja, wel. The past few hours, we have been getting calls from our clinics in the outer district about hoofrot incidents. Typically, hoofrot is late winter, early spring illness, and ponies would have plenty of time to get their annual immunization shots if they haven't already. But if hoofrot were to begin spreading early, before most of the city got their immunizations, we'd be looking at an epidemic. Oh, that was terrible. What sort of actions are being taken to prevent such an occurrence? I have spoken with the committee. Is he French or German? I'm saying like committee, like French, but I don't know. I have spoken with the committee directly and shown them he's German, and shown them research. They agree with me that it would be better to be practice caution than to risk toying with the lives of our citizens. I believe our studio will be getting their issued mandate soon. Mandate, Doctor? I know there are many ponies in the city that do not listen to the medical reports, or even watch the news, and I requested the committee take responsibility to ensure that all ponies in the city take action to prevent this possible catastrophe. Immunization shots are free for all ponies, with valid identification, and all of our clinics are open 24 hours a day, so there really is no excuse. I see. For those at home watching, what are the symptoms of hoof rot? So that they know which ponies to avoid to prevent infection. Ja, of course. Hoof rot comes in stages, and unluckily, we are only in the first stage of this disease's run. First stage sufferers of hoof rot will have tiny green or red splotches or warts on their hooves. Unicorns may also have similar blemishes on their horns, as they similarly affected. Hoof rot is highly contagious. Do not touch any ponies that shows the symptoms. Do not let them breathe on you. Do not interact with them. Hang on, I just need to take a drink. Alright. Thank you, Doctor, for your time. Always a pleasure to do a service for this great city. Hopefully he won't be talking anymore. This has been Hotwire, reporting for Channel 1, back to you in the studio. The camera returns to the studio view, where Butter Peckham was shuffling a paper she had been handed. Thank you, Hotwire, and thank you, Dr. Blutsauger. As noted in the report, we have just received the committee's mandate. Issued 1 hour ago this morning, the committee has issued an order that all citizens without up-to-date hoof rot immunization records in the past 30 days are to report to the nearest new Pandemonium City clinic as soon as possible. They have also issued that any pony that does not get their immunization shots within the next 24 hours is subject to forced admission by order of the New Pandemonium Police Department. This mandate is going to be aired on all stations within the next 15 minutes through the rest of the day. Through the rest of the day, and broadcast hourly on the public broadcast system. Daybreak? Thank you, bud. Click. Come on then, ladies. You heard the lady. Flutterhoof grunted. What? Rainbow Dash blinked. Already? We have all day, don't we? What's the big rush? If I'd known about this blasted report, I would have had you all at Central General an hour ago, when the mandate was issued. Flutterhoof sighed. Clearly flustered at suddenly having an actual work to do this early in the day. This is one of the most congested subsectors of the city, and the closest clinic to us is the busiest clinic in the entire Mid-District collection. I'm certain ponies have already started to make their way there, and I'd already like to get this done before too long. But the longer we wait, the longer we'll have to wait. So, enough arguing, let's get moving, hop to it. Twilight stood up and began to mimic Flutterhoof's words. You heard him, girls, let's get going, chop chop. Ah, but, Rainbow blurted, they're about to get to sports, I want to see if they have a skyball league here. Rarity sighed and rolled her eyes. Honestly, Rainbow Dash, why do you have to be so argumentative? I am not arguing, I'm just saying, I don't know why we have to be in such a rush, Rainbow Dash glared. You're the ones who seem to want to start the arguments, not me. Like right now, I'm just saying stuff and you're trying to get into it with me. Oh dear, Fluttershy peeped. Here we go again. Good heavens, darling, I have never heard such an inaccurate statement. You're the one who started the fuss last time about... Me? You're the one who started it, making a big deal about how I was cleaning things up. What was that all about? What was it all about, oh Rainbow Dash? I know you can't clean worth a dang, because you used to live in a cloud stuff, huh? Hang on. I was merely making an observation, Rarity humped. You're the one who went off on a tangent about homes and things like that. Girls! Twilight stamped her hoof. Really, this is neither the time or place for this sort of thing. But both Rainbow and Rarity frowned. Y'all heard Twilight, Applejack stepped in. Let's just get this over with. No fussing around. I reckon it won't take that long. Then we can get back home and start getting to work on more important things if y'all want to argue. If y'all want to argue, do it later. Applejack was actually secretly, and rather ashamedly, sort of glad they had been arguing. If Rarity had found some pony else to get into it with, that meant less of a headache for herself. I just wanted to see if they had a Skyball League, Rainbow sighed. Gee, sports was next anyway. It wouldn't have taken that long. That can wait for later. This is important. Do you want to get hoof rot? Twilight said sternly. Well, no, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal, Rainbow shrugged. We have that stuff back home too. We're making it sound like it's super serious, and that's because maybe... Don't you think it is a serious illness over here? Twilight chastised. It might not be that big of a deal back home. Just get some bed rest and drink some medicinal teas, plenty of foods and all that stuff. But here, they're making it sound like it could be deadly. Multiple stages? Hoof rot back home doesn't work like that. It just makes you smell a little bit. You all must have it pretty lucky in Utopia, Flathoof blinked, to have hoof rot be treated like a common cold. Even then, it is most dreadful little illness, Rarity shuddered. Oh my, I remembered having it once when I was a little filly. Made my hoof smell just awful for a whole week. Since then, I've taken great care to watch my health and avoid catching it again. It would drive away business. Pinkie Pie giggled. I remember when my sister had it all the time I remember when my sisters all had it at the same time. They had to declare our rug farm a Class 5 smelly zone. It was really hard to try and throw parties in all that stink, and it was just 3 of us, so we really couldn't get any supplies or nothing. Mum and Pop couldn't come anywhere near us, and it was really awful. I didn't like it all that much, but I mean you'd have to be crazy. You'd have to be a crazy pony to actually like having hoof rot. Fine, Rainbow held her hoofs up. I didn't mean to sound like I didn't want to get this done at all. I was just wondering what the dang rush was for. Jeez, no need to bite my head off. What would your head even taste like? Pinkie tapped her hoof to her chin. I wonder if it tastes like anything like your Pinkie Pie. Oh, for God's sake! Please tell me that's not anything more about famine. Rainbow flustered. Jeez, they don't need to hear about that. What? I was just going to say your favourite candy. You know, rainbow drops. Pfft, what did you think I was going to say? Twilight face huffed. Girls, please, can we just get going? I'd like to get this done as soon as possible. Right, Officer Flathoof? Flathoof sighed and nodded, looking at the clock face on the nearby wall. We're probably already running a little late. New Pandemonium Medical Central General Clinic was probably the least impressive building they'd seen thus far. Maybe more so than the NPPD Central Station, but not by much. It was shorter than the other buildings by a far margin. This one didn't tower above all the others nearby, and was actually fairly well overshadowed by its neighbours. It wasn't even particularly wide like Southeast Point or even Central Database Holdings were. It was still very big, to be sure, easily large enough to hold a few thousand ponies, as Flathoof explained, but it wasn't until he told them that it had a very large underground portion too that they understood how that was physically possible. That was where they had to do some of the more serious treatments, to avoid contamination from any smog residue on the surface levels. The building was an extremely contrasting dirty white in comparison to the rest of the nearby buildings, which were all tar or brick or soot-coloured. Much like even the rest of the city they'd seen thus far. and seemed almost hygienic and sterile, were it only cleaned a little bit. Large red crosses adorned many of the building's features, and a particularly large one was plastered just above the large four-piece doors on the front, enough to let a few dozen ponies in and out of the entrance at once, likely to accommodate room for stretchers and beds, or other equipment. And this one had bright golden letters emboldened across it, reading the name of the building. "See, I told you," Flutterf pointed as they entered the sliding quad doors to the building. Twilight Sparkle and her friends' jaws all collectively dropped at the sight of so many ponies in one tightly packed little place. There was a line of ponies stretching all the way down the long hallway ahead of them, and it looked like it was even going all the way round the corner in the distance. And they couldn't guess where it went from there. A little signpost at the end of the line here by the door indicated this line was for hoof-rot immunization shots, and a little digital display on the top gave a readout of the expected wait time. This was what made the group's heads spin. It said 15 hours. No, wait, it just clicked again. Now it said 15 hours 30 minutes. The ponies at the very end of the line had apparently wisely anticipated the wait time, and like many others ahead in the line, brought cushions for to sit on and little bags of snacks and drinks to partake in while they waited. Rainbow Dash in particular related the line to the ones she had waited in as a filly to get tickets to the Wonderbolt shows. But 15 hours? Even the Wonderbolts weren't that popular. "Geez, you weren't kidding," Rainbow Dash sighed. "Sorry I held us up. If I'd known..." "It wouldn't have made much difference," Flutterf sighed. Maybe saved you all at the most 15 or 20 minutes if we'd gotten here 10 minutes ago. I don't know. Listen, you six go ahead and get in line. I'll see if I can find something out from the nurse station. I might not be Lockwood, but maybe I can try and get some sort of, I don't know, something." Flathoof trotted a ways away from the 6 mares as they looked up positions in line, and rang a bell at the nurse station. A white Pegasus mare came out of the nearby room, clad in a white uniform and a little cap with a red cross. "Can I help you, officer?" "Yes, well, maybe." Flathoof smiled, trying his best to work some kind of charm. That's how Lockwood always did it. Certainly that might help here, even if he wasn't quite used to those methods. He figured that trying to be assertive and demanding would not work out any better here than it had at Central Database Holdings. "I'm the parole officer for those 6 mares over there." He pointed at his parolees. "I was wondering if there was anything you could do to maybe help get their shots a little sooner." The nurse narrowed her eyes and frowned. "You're kidding, right? You want me to try and skip 6 mares ahead of a 15-hour line? You must be out of your mind." I know it sounds a little selfish," Flatter smiled calmly as he tugged his collar. "But they are new in the city, see, and don't even have last year's shots. I'm worried something... Look, as much as I'm sure that's the case, I simply can't just break protocol and skip them all ahead. This place is a zoo already. Can you imagine the kind of chaos that skipping a few mares ahead of the line will cause? If you think you can hold off a riot all by yourself, then feel free to convince me otherwise." Flatter sighed. So much for trying it Lockwood's way. Lockwood must have some sort of special technique he was unaware of. "Fine. It was worth a try. Thanks for your time." He dejectedly walked away and returned to the other mares. "Sorry, ladies. No luck. I'm sure Lockwood might have been able to do something. Knowing him, he probably knows half the staff here. Well, we'll just have to tough it out." "Oh, jeez," Rainbow Dash groaned. "This is gonna be so boring." "Oh, take it easy, Sugar Cube," Applejack chuckled. At least we all got company, yeah?" "Yeah, I guess." Um, maybe we should think about something to talk about to pass the time. Fluttershy weakly suggested. I mean, if you want to. Oh, we should play a game. Pinky grinned. Okay, I spy with my little eyes something white. Is it me? Asked Rarity with confidence. Nope. Rarity frowned. Well, she always picks me with that colour. Is it, Fluttershy? Oh, is it, Fluttershy said quietly. The nurse's gown? Nope. Is it the floor? Rainbow Dash sighed. What? The floor is clearly beige, Dashy. Pinky chuckled. Then did her best Rarity impression. I mean, really, Rainbow Dash. I know Rarity is the fashion expert here and all, but you can't tell the difference between beige and white? Well, it used to be white, Rainbow scuffed at the tile, revealing how much dirt was caked on it. If they ever cleaned it. Rarity laughed. I never thought I'd hear you say... I never thought I'd hear that sort of thing from you. Come on, guys, you gotta keep trying, Pinky shouted. Something white. Twilight rolled her eyes. The lights? Nope. The ceiling? Applejack blinked. You guys are terrible, Pinky sighed. Something white. I give up, Rainbow blurted. Come on, Pinky, everything here is nearly white. It's a hospital. What do you pick? Pinky pointed right at Flathoof, who nervously shied away a little from her accusing hoof as he scrolled down his face, to his chest, to his badge, to the NPPD motto scrawled there in the white writing. It's a living. Oh, for the love of... Twilight groaned. We can't even read that from here. I thought it was a reflection of the light, Rarity fumed. Really, Pinkie Pie, really? Moving on, Rainbow sighed. Oh, I don't know. Here, I know what we could talk about. Twilight, how did last night go? Find out anything about getting it? And she remembered Flathoof was just a few feet away. A job? Oh, right, Twilight smiled. Well, the chief librarian was more than qualified for the position... Wait. Well, the chief librarian said I was more than qualified for the position and wants me to go back, tonight. Oh, shoot. How am I going to get there and... How am I going to go in for an interview if I'm standing in a line waiting for a shot? Do you think he'd understand? Flathoof nodded. For a committee mandate, I'm sure he'd make an exception. Heck, if it were my guess, he might even be in this same line here, assuming he lives in Central Plaza. Did you find anything else, Twilight? Rainbow nudged, then slightly hushed the whisper. You know, anything important? Twilight blinked for a moment, in thought. It says in though, but I think it's supposed to say in thought. Then gave a face of realization. Right, well, no, I couldn't find out what I was hoping to. I didn't have much time to do my research, sadly. I had planned on spending all of today there trying to find out some more, but... Excuse me, officer? Excuse me, officer? The nurse had come over specifically to speak to them. Flathoof hadn't noticed her walking over and was taken a little by surprise. Yes? He blinked. It would seem there was a misunderstanding, she nervously chuckled. You said your parolees were citizens, right? Well, maybe there is something I can do for you then. Oh, Flathoof said in genuine elated surprise. Oh, that's good news. Great news. Now, since they're new citizens and all that, they're going to have to go through a routine physical and get some blood work done. She explained. Nothing special. We only have one doctor on staff that can do this right now. That's why I didn't think of it before. Most of the doctoral staff doesn't report until late morning. You're in luck. Our chief of medicine to be here early today to be interviewed for the news report. I've already spoken with his secretary, and she says he's agreeing to do it, though not without resistance. Dr. Bloodsorger? Oh no! Please tell me he doesn't have to speak some more. I have to do the terrible accent again. Flathoof blinked. The chief of medicine is going to give my parolees a standard medical exam. Isn't that a bit beneath his station? Yes, typically, the nurse nodded quickly. But the hospital board would want him to do it anyway, since she leaned in a little and hushed her voice. We get tax breaks whenever new citizens get fresh medical records. Kinda like your NPPD does, yeah? Every little bit helps, if you catch my drift. Flathoof would have rolled his eyes and sighed, would that not have been in bad taste. He was unaware that NPM operated under the same rules as seemingly every other major government-sanctioned department. Money was money, so he just nodded and smiled. Thank you. I appreciate this, nurse. Tenderheart, she nodded. And don't thank me. I'm just doing my job. And to tell you the truth, this might put me in good graces with the board. We have been a little short on funding lately. All these free immunizations are expensive. And we had to call in extra staff members to see that the line moved as quickly as possible. As well as monitor our actual patients and the like. If the actual doctors were showing up at a decent hour, the line would be half as long. Hang on, just need to take a drink. Right. Right, Flathoof nodded. She handed him a card. Here, give this to his secretary. Tell her I sent you and she'll admit your parole's no problem. She's expecting you. Take the elevator, and she pointed down another hallway that ran perpendicular to the one they were already standing in. Up to the 8th floor. Take a right. Down the hall until you reach the big wooden door on the right side. Just before you turn the corner to the end. That's Dr. Blutzorger's office. Flathoof nodded again and took the card. Thank you again, Nurse Tenderheart. Come on, ladies, we're in luck. Thank goodness, Twilight sighed. Hopefully this won't take quite as long, right? It shouldn't. Flathoof shook his head as he led them towards the elevators. Well, the examination part at least. Those don't take very long at all. I've been in for I haven't been in for blood work since I was a rookie. Part of joining the force and all. I don't remember how long that took. Either way, it's not going to take 15 hours. I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes for each of you. Longer than just a shot. But hey, we don't have to wait in line, right? Well, that's a relief, Rainbow breathed. The elevators here at Central General were much larger than those in NPB Central Station, so no pony had to be squished next to any pony else. Ding, 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 ding. 8th floor. That wasn't 8 dings, but screw it. I couldn't be bothered to do them all. You get the idea. This floor was nice. While the lobby had been a somewhat filthy white, clean enough to be passable, but not really sterile or hygienic, this floor felt more like that of a high-rise office building. Like it didn't even belong in Central Plaza, let alone the entirety of all the mid-districts, and certainly not like it was part of a hospital. The floor was carpeted. The walls and ceiling were a pristine white. It was clear to Flathoof that the NPM spent a great deal of their extra tax bits, and while it made him sick thinking about how many of those bits were likely his and his family's, he knew he was up here getting things done for some pony in need. There would be time to be upset about the wastefulness later. Down the hall, right-hand side just before the corner. Ah, here it was. A big door made of what seemed to be a blackened wood that none of them recognized. Marked by what looked like solid gold placard? That read, Dr. Blutzorger, MD, Chief of Medicine. Upon entering, they saw his secretary, a dark blue unicorn mare with curly white hair, wearing a professional-looking business suit. She was busy filling out some paperwork when they walked in, and hardly noticed them until Flathoof coughed and stepped up to her. Can I help you? She asked without looking up from her work. Flathof set the business card he'd been given onto her desk. "We were sent up here from Nurse Tenderheart to see Dr. Blutsauger. Something about getting..." "Ah, right, I got her message a few minutes ago." "You should count yourselves lucky that Dr. Blutsauger is even here this early. But what can you do when you have a possible epidemic on your hooves, These 6 mares are the patients, then, yes?" "May I see their identifications?" The 6 all hastily fumbled through their outfits to find where they stored their ID cards, then presented them. The secretary looked over each of them carefully and entered the information into her computer station. It looks like Tenderheart was right. They don't have any medical records on file. They just got into the city yesterday afternoon, did they? They got their identifications awfully fast. And already they're getting medical records taken care of and everything. Good for you. It's not often we see new ponies take such quick action. Wait here. I'll inform the doctor you've arrived. Thank you, Flathof nodded. She left the room and headed through the large door behind her that led into Dr. Blutsauger's personal office. Flathoof breathed a sigh of relief, as did Twilight and her friends. "This is going pretty smoothly," Twilight smiled. "I was worried when we first got here that every pony was going to be unhelpful and rude. Like the first few we met. It's nice to see there are other ponies around here that are like you and Mr. Lockwood." Rainbow grunted. "This all seems a little fishy if you ask me." "Aw, come on, Dashie," Pinky grinned. "Every pony's got to get lucky sometimes, right? Why, I remember when I was a little Twinkie Pinky." I love that phrase, Twinkie Pinky, it sounds so dull. "Growing up on a family's rock farm. When I saw a moving rock and got really scared because hey, rocks don't move on their own. But it turned out it wasn't a rock, it was a rock lobster. My mom and pop were super excited because those are worth so much money to rich ponies and stuff as pets. So we sold it, and then we decided to take a vacation at the beach with the bits we made. And every pony got matching towels, and Rainbow Dash leaned over to Rarity, who she figured would know. What the hey is a rock lobster? So we were headed there and we saw a sign on the road that said 15 miles to the... Rarity shook her head. Never heard of one. Fluttershy? And it was set back in the middle of the field, which seems like a really weird place to put a place called the Love Shack, but I don't know. I guess every pony likes their privacy every now and then, right? So yeah, it was just a funky old shack, and Fluttershy peeped. They're little critters that use rocks for their homes. Use them kind of like a shell. But they typically don't live where Pinkie Pie lived. They lived by the ocean, usually under docks. So we took it hip to hip, rocking through the wilderness, which was really fun. Mum and Pop never much liked the dance except at my party, so it was really neat to see them having such a good time. I told them, "Mom, Pop, you gotta roam if you want to. Even without wings or wheels or..." "So what the hey is one doing on her farm?" Rainbow blurted. "Pinkie Pie, your story doesn't make any sense." "And it had pink hair, which I thought was super cool, because I'm pink and stuff, and I thought maybe the air would taste different, but it really didn't. So I was kind of disappointed. All the trees were red, though, which is weird. I thought maybe they were like licorice or something, but nope. So then, Flathoof held his face with a hoof. I swear, if I have to hear one more of these crazy stories..." Their attentions were diverted away from Pinkie Pie's bizarre tale when the large double doors leading to the office opened with the secretary who reappeared. "Dr. Blutsauger will see you now, one at a time," she quickly added when all the 6 mares took a step forward. "And you insist on doing it alphabetically. This means you're first, Miss Applejack?" "Ah, well, okay, I guess," Applejack nodded as she trotted forward and past the secretary. Applejack walked into the office and nearly jumped at the sound of the big door snapping closed behind her. Dr. Blutsauger's office was, well, to put it lightly, it was fancy. richly decorated and filled with all sorts of unique and exotic decor, all of which were eerily medically themed. The whole place rather put Applejack on edge. The massive wall of degrees and qualifications somewhat eased her trepidation. He was clearly not just a doctor, not even just a good doctor, but a highly decorated expert in his field. Rather fields, given the amount of degrees on the wall. Though she didn't know any of the many different specializations, there were degrees here for cardiology, hermatology, and a few others, none of which she knew the nature of, nor really cared to know. Truth be told, the carpet was lavish and felt comfortable under her hoofs. Oddly enough, like walking in freshly cut, crisp grass. There were no windows, no viewpoints into the outside world at all, and she actually preferred it that way since the big city was still unsettling to her. Along one of the walls a display of many items. For lack of a better term for them, most of them were jars filled with a clear through greenish liquid that she figured must have some sort of preserving effect on what was also in the jars. She'd never paid much attention in school during biology lessons, but she figured out that a few of the objects in those jars were organs. Well, for certain, now Applejack was less at ease with the whole room, and wondered how Dr. Blutsorg expected a wall of full pony organs to really soothe any pony that came in here. The doctor himself soon exited from a nearby side room, using his magic to organize some clipboards, pens, and a few needles and other tools. Miss Applejack, ja? Wunderbar. Let's get this ordeal over with. I did not expect to be coming in today to give physicals and do the blasted Hofrat shots myself. But business is business. Let's take care of a few measurements first. Step over to the device here, please. And he gestured to a machine that Applejack thought looked similar to a scale. She stepped on it, and he came over and began adjusting knobs and levers on the panel. Now then, I understand you're from Utopia, yeah? Did you take a physical over there at any time recently? Applejack thought for a moment, and remembered the doctor's visit she'd taken a little while before all of this, to see about pain in one of her forelegs. Yeah, some few months ago. Do you remember any of the measurements you were given? Measurements? Yeah, your height, weight, things like that. I'd like to have them on for comparison, in case there is a large difference in the numbers. Helps to see if you have grown or shrunk in figure, yeah? To learn if perhaps there is something in your daily routine and diet that might be affecting you. Okay, I don't really remember. I ain't that good with numbers, see, and fine, it's no big issue. He dismissed. We can worry about that the next time you have one. See how well you adjust to changing living conditions. Let's see, height is 141, slightly above average, very good. You're a tall one, yeah? Weight is 427, also above average. Applejack glared. Well, that's a bit rude, Doc. You saying I'm fat? Dr. Blutsorger chuckled and waved his hoof dismissively. Ach, goodness no. That was a bit Scottish there. Ach, goodness no. Ach, goodness no. Ha! He wiped a kerchief. I think. I don't know. Is it third kerchief? That's where it's handkerchief. Whatever. Under one of his goggles. That is a new one. I will have to remember it for the next doctor's ball. Anyway, 9. You have some tone as well. I suspect the extra weight is all the muscular. You are a work pony, yeah? Understandable, given your height. You must do a lot of physical labor, and quite often. From Utopia. Construction, maybe, or a farm pony, perhaps. Applejack blinked. Yeah, that's right. Good guess, Doc. Ach, ach, I make it my business to know my patients. A little bit of personal love, yeah? Helps make them feel at ease, since many patients feel uncomfortable with a few of these procedures. And he nervously tugged the collar of his lab coat, knowing that Applejack was not likely to take too kindly to the next stage of the physical exam, and was certainly physically capable of bucking him into next season. Bonjour, est-ce que c'est votre livre? I did French in secondary school, and the moment that I was able to just not do it again, I forgot everything. So, bonjour, est-ce que c'est votre livre? I'm not even good. It's some French mumble jabble. Budslogger pulled back several inches and looked at his stethoscope carefully. No, there wasn't any dirt or dust on it. He leaned again, and then there's some Japanese writing. His stethoscope shifted. This is your captain speaking. We are currently on your final approach to... He kept himself calm. Wait, what? I'm confused. This is your captain speaking. We are currently on your final approach to... He kept himself calm. Pinky only smiled. He coughed and gave her a relaxed, though quizzical, look of concern. Pinky's grin got wider. Problem, Doc? Will you stop moving, please? Bloodsucker gasped. You are making this so much harder than it needs to be. Come on, Doc, you gotta try harder than that, Rainbow chuckled. Or am I too fast for you? I'm just a fast flyer, you know. I gotta be fast all over. You are not supposed to dodge the hammer. He panted as he lifted it once more. Again, he swung it down. Again, he missed. She moved her leg out of the way. Well, that's dumb. How's it supposed to test my reflexes if I just let you hit me? Bloodsucker sighed. I was done with dealing with things like this. Ouch! What? Ouch! Wow, that stings. There we go, all done. Bloodsucker nodded as he used his magic to flip the tip of the needle. This is something. I have not done it in a long time. He added with a rather sinister sounding chuckle. Blood work is such a pleasure. Sometimes I wish I had not gotten this promotion, yeah? It is always the little things you miss the most. Right, Twilight grimaced as she felt him apply the tiny bandage to the injection area. So, are we all done here for today with everything? Oh yeah, that will be all. Bloodsucker dismissively waved. Tell my secretary you're all done, and she'll seize tax paperwork to your place of residence. Oh, right, Twilight nodded. Thank you for all of this. Don't thank me. I didn't really want to come in on my day off and do a bunch of first year stuff. Just be thankful some pony here is obviously looking out for you. Twilight sighed and left the office. Her friends were all in the entryway. Varied looks of displeasure and neutral bewilderment at the experiences they'd just gone through. Well, doctor's visits were certainly different here in this world. It was good to be back home. Not too many hours had passed, but it was still closing in on mid-afternoon, as the 6 mares and Flathoof ascended to the stairs of South East Point towards their apartment. Every time they traversed these stairs, they became more and more accustomed to the climb, and it was getting a little less strenuous as they prepared themselves for it. That and having a good night's rest, stopping for a little lunch on the way home, though Applejack admittedly ate a little less than everybody else, said something about not feeling right, about eating the strange dollar food. Alright, I thought it was just because the doctor called her fat. And not having to deal with a lot of stress and activity thanks to getting sucked through a portal and thrown into another world. It's because the dude told her it was made out of ponies. Into another world. Sure did allow them a lot more energy for it. Even Rarity barely complained as they made the climb. It came to a surprise to them, however, to find Lockwood waiting at the top of the stairs for them, pacing back and forth outside their open doors. He looked calm but impatient. Lockwood? Flathoof started as he came ahead of the 6 ponies. What are you doing here? Oh, there you all are. Must have been going in for those immunization shots, hmm? He nodded. Right. Of course you were. Silly me to ask. How was it? The line wasn't too long, I hope. 15 hours and 30 minutes, Twilight Sparkle sighed. When we got there, it was packed. I've never seen such a crowd in one place. Really? Lockwood blinked. Did something happen? You're all back awfully early. Good thing, too. Yeah, we got some help from a nurse there, Flathoof nodded. A nurse Tenderheart, to be precise. Friend of yours? Maybe she recognized me or something. I figured you might have had something to do with it. Maybe called in a favour knowing... hang on. I've lost my place. Figured you might have had something to do with it. Maybe called in a favour knowing we'd be there. Tenderheart. No, that name doesn't sound familiar. I know a few nurses there. Yeah. Sorry, the scrolling on the laptop always puts me off. Tenderheart. No, that doesn't sound familiar. I know a few nurses there, and one doctor. It wouldn't be Dr. Blutzauger, would it? The chief of medicine? My dear friend, I think you overestimate me. Lockwood chuckled. I know a lot of ponies, but that's a little beyond my reach when social circles are concerned. But I digress. I had nothing to do with this at all. Flathoof hummed. Well, that's odd. Well, I guess that nurse or secretary was just really nice then. Shame. I should have gotten some information for you. You'd probably like to meet some pony like that. So anyway, I know you didn't come up here to make conversation. Well, maybe you would, but that doesn't look like why you're here. What's going on, pal? Ah, yes, right, Lockwood coughed. It would seem our new friends have a visitor. The 6 mares, Lockwood and Flathoof, all entered the apartment, lying on the couch using a thick raincoat as a cushion, and looking in rather dire straits, was a mint green unicorn mare. Whoever the mare was, she certainly looked, and smelled, Rarity was sure to point out, as if she had been through hell and back again in the past day. Her body was covered in small cuts and bruises, many of which had clearly not really healed properly. Some of the worst ones were on her face. Particularly a few nasty cuts around her muzzle and nose. At least her cutie mark was still recognisable, even if it too had some shallow cuts. A silver and gold stopwatch with a long black chain, that in of itself seemed to actually accurately tell time. Its minute and hour hands were identical to that of the clock in the room, and even ticked off on their own. Her sweater vest had been ripped and torn in many places. Her bow tie was half missing. Her bow tie was half missing, the other half frazzled and dirty. And her sky blue mane and tail certainly did not look any better. They were a mess, stained with bits of blood and dirt and sweat, such that they were not so much hair as what they were strips of some sticky fabric that were in dire need of cleaning. She smelled of smog and smoke, soot and burning rain, as if she had been a Pegasus obsessed with flying through the thick city air, like they were completely normal clouds. She did not look well at all. She came looking for you about an hour ago, she says, Lockwood whispered. When she found out you all weren't home, she came downstairs and asked for me. I offered her some medical aid, but she insisted there wasn't time for that. And that we came up here and wait for you. And at last got here to sit down and be patient. Poor girl, and now look at me, pacing here pacing here in her stairs. I'm getting off track again. She said she was looking for a friend of yours, and you trusted her? Just like that? Flat her fist. Lockwood, look at her. She looks like she's not exactly a reputable pony, I know. But I listened to her talk. Looked into those eyes of hers. There's no malice here. There's no malice there, my friend. She looks like she's been through a lot getting here. I thought it would be the right to see her request. Twilight Sparkle stepped forward first, determined not to continue arguing about who this pony was. She had claimed to be their friend, but Twilight had never seen her before in her life. Well, that wasn't true. She looked a little familiar, but it must not have been a particularly long or pleasant meeting if she could not recall it too clearly. Either way, there would be time to deal with those sort of details later. Now all that she wanted was an explanation. Who are you? Twilight asked, simply and firmly. Why were you looking for us? The mare shook off her half sleep and smiled, though obviously with a little pain. Her eyes were kind of showing a great deal of concern and frightened anxiety. Relax, Twilight Sparkle. And how do you know our names? Twilight asked, making the assumed conclusion. I know a great many things about you 6 young ladies, but don't worry, I'm not an enemy. Quite the opposite, in fact. You'll forgive me my mild theatrics. I've always wanted to do stuff like this, she chuckled. My name is TikTok, and I am here to help you send you home. And that is the end of Chapter 5. That was an hour and a half. These chapters are getting longer. I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, yeah, that's me done for today. So that will be one fanfiction up today, which is Tuesday. Next one's Friday. Now I'll put my friends up Friday, and then Chapter 5 Sunday. That's the days that I upload. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for listening. Keep on spreading... I'm tired. Keep on spreading the magic of friendship, and I'll see you next time.